Thank you. My Lords, I rise to speak to amendments number 106, 326 and 330 in my name. In doing so, may I offer the apologies, I've been requested to offer the apologies of the noble Lord MacDonald of River Glaven, who wished very much to speak on this, whose name is on the list of supporters, but who is not able to be here because of professional obligations. In these amendments, 326 and 330 are essentially minor consequential amendments. The meat, if you like, of the amendment of the debate is in amendment number 106. My Lords, these amendments concern non-crime hate incidents. They are a subject of controversy and much debated, but I hope to persuade your Lordship's House that this particular amendment largely is not actually controversial because it is essentially procedural in character and doesn't change current practice for recording those crimes in itself. Now, with so many distinguished lawyers having indicated they wish to speak in this debate, I hesitate to start by giving a brief summary of the legal background, but I shall do so very tentatively and subject to their correction, if I may. A hate crime, my Lords, is a crime, it may be in principle any crime, which is conjoined with a motivation on the part of the perpetrator of hatred towards a particular or specified group. That hatred needs to be perceived either by the victim or by one of a number of other groups of people acting reasonably, for example, a witness such as a police constable or whatever. But what happens? It is an alloy, if you like, of a crime and a motivation. But what happens if one part of that alloy is missing? If there is evidence of a motivation of hate, but there is actually no crime, no action which constitutes a crime or which meets the threshold for bringing a prosecution. That, my Lord, is the essence of the non-crime hate incident, the hated incident which occurs without being conjoined with a crime. Now, these non-crime hate incidents are often recorded by the police, and if the perpetrator is known, they are recorded, so to speak, against the name of the perpetrator. They go to a record in the name of that person. All of this happens at the moment, my Lords, under guidance issued by the College of Policing. It's quite extensive and elaborate guidance if you choose to look it up. But it has no statutory force. It has no democratic supervision, and it is inconsistently applied as between different police forces. I think most noble lords would agree that this is not a satisfactory position, and the bulk of this amendment, all of it apart from one subclause which I shall come to shortly, effectively obliges the Home Secretary to issue guidance within 6 months of the passage of the bill, to issue guidance and to take account of certain matters in doing so, one of which is the human right to freedom of expression. It does not tell her what the guidance she issues should contain. It does not prevent her from adopting the existing guidance wholesale, should she wish to do so. But it does bring the whole matter under political oversight for the first time, and because it is proposed that this should be done through a statutory instrument made under the affirmative procedure, it brings it to the attention and available for the comment of both Houses of Parliament. So democratic accountability will be brought to this process for the first time, and I think that can only be widely welcomed by members of this House. What this amendment does not do explicitly is it does not affect police practice in relation to any police investigation which is current. And it does not apply to any police action in relation to hatred expressed towards an individual, as opposed to hatred motivated by hatred of a group. So, if there were cases of stalking and things of that character directed at an individual, that would not be covered, not be caught by this amendment. Now, that deals with the bulk of the amendment, all of the clauses, all of the parts of it, except subclause 7. So I'm going to come to that separately because it's slightly different. Subclause 7 prohibits the police from including this data, if they have recorded it, when responding to requests for an enhanced criminal record check. As I say, it has a slightly different character to the rest of the amendment, but it does address what I perceive, and many others perceive, as an injustice. Now, other noble lords may speak later, giving instances of that injustice by referring to particular cases. But I would just like to address what I regard as the principle of the injustice, which is that if you are accused of a crime, you have the opportunity to state your case and protest your innocence in an open court in front of an impartial judge and heard by a jury. That is not the case if you have a non-crime hate incident recorded against your name. There is no process in which those who feel themselves, believe themselves to be innocent of that allegation, there is no process they can pursue to clear their name, apart from judicial review, which, as we know, is an expensive and arduous process and not available to most people. And this can attach a stigma to their name that will last potentially for the rest of their life. They will be stigmatized for many years for not committing a crime. Now, that seems to me, my lords, to be a real and serious injustice, but it's not merely abstract. As other noble lords may explain, there are particular cases which illustrate it. Now, given that this is, in my view, a largely procedural amendment, that it adds democratic accountability to a process, I would hope it would find support on all sides of the House, and indeed from the government. And so, my lords, I beg to move.